Joining me now, Congressman, 5th District, Republican, member of the Freedom Caucus, Tom Garrett. Congressman, good to have you with us.
John Fredericks. I only take on a select few clientele as well, about 750,000 Virginians in the 5th District.
Stop laughing. That is a select few clients. So here we are with Tom Garrett, member of the Freedom Caucus. Now, Congressman, you've only been there for a few months, so we can't blame any of this stuff on you. That's the good news. So we get this Obamacare replacement, which is like Obamacare
John.
light.
There's lots of people blaming stuff on me that I didn't do already. Why shouldn't you be just like them?
Because I'm the beacon of truth, right? You know that. You've been there 60 days. By the way, I'm still waiting for my memo. I didn't get my memo today from Don McKeechin telling me that Trump sucks. And it's already 7:42. I have to check to be sure he's all right. Let's see. So Obamacare light rolls out. One of your colleagues, Justin in Michigan, calls it Obama 2.0. Let me just ask you this, straight out, okay? Where in this plan does it bend the long-term cost down?
When you find it, call me. And there's your problem. Look, there was a story, we might have talked about this previously, in the news a month ago that says the 8 wealthiest people in the world controlled as much wealth as the bottom 50 percentile. So you're looking at 3.5 billion people. That's half of 7 plus 8. Now, if you took all the money from every one of those people, more than half the people on the planet, and you applied it to the current U.S. debt, you wouldn't get to a tenth of it. And all this plan does is double down on that without really creating circumstances that free up the marketplaces to bend the cost curve down. And so I mean, it's a nice try. It probably would be a good half measure to perpetuate people's status as an elected official, but it doesn't address the long-term needs in healthcare or as it relates to the sustainability of our national spending curve. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. On the other side of the aisle, of course, we have 4 senators who say that they won't vote for anything that doesn't include permanent Medicaid expansion. So this is going to be interesting.
Well, and I want to get to that, and then we'll go back to the cost curve, which is my big issue, Congressman Garrett, because, look, I've said this for some time. I have no problem extending the entitlement to the 15 million people that are being subsidized for insurance that didn't have it over time with a phase out, as long as you fix the problem permanently. This plan doesn't fix the problem. I mean, it does nothing. It's a joke. It's changing the name because there's no buying insurance across state lines. There's no opening up the market. It's still got tax incentives to benefit insurance companies. It's like the insurance companies have written this bill, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I will say this. The McCarran-Ferguson appeal that we've been a champion of, that is really the needed reform to allow for the purchase of insurance across state lines, is moving through separately. It's out of committee. If that thing doesn't pass on a bipartisan margin, then the Democrats have no intellectual honesty at all, because it was originally proposed by Tom Perriello. But that's what we have to do to open up markets across state lines, and that one's moving separately. So, you know, I will say that there are multiple sort of avenues of approach to this problem. We'll see what happens with McCarran-Ferguson.
Okay, so let's get to the 4 U.S. senators. This is the problem in politics where we thought we had a revolution, and I guess some of your colleagues in Congress, it passed them by. So you have 4 Republican senators in 4 Republican states with 4 Republican governors who took the Medicaid expansion money in their states, right? Virginia, you were in the State House. You guys fought it tooth and nail. We were all with you on that because you all said, look, Obamacare is going to implode. It's unsustainable. And we don't want Virginia caught holding it back for all this money. Once you have an entitlement, you can't go back, right? That was the whole argument. You guys were right. And about 2 weeks ago, when this thing was imploding, Virginia State House Republicans looked like seers and geniuses. Now, what these 4 senators are saying is, I'm not going to vote for the plan unless you protect my state for doing the wrong thing by giving me money in perpetuity And meantime, states like Virginia that did the right thing get nothing. I mean, how the hell does this make any sense?
$10 billion a year through 2020, right? In Virginia, sort of as a consolation prize. But yeah, that's a distant second to rewarding bad behavior. Ultimately, let's cut to the chase. The Freedom Caucus is meeting with President Trump, I believe, tomorrow. And he is not, although some of the things he said in his joint address to Congress might lead one to believe that he's supportive of the Speaker's plan, he hasn't supported any plan yet. Our pitch is going to be, look, if you're running for re-election in 4 years, 3.5, and you haven't bent the cost curve at least flat, if not down, then this is boomeranging on you. And so it's a Jerry Maguire help us help you pitch. And ultimately, the only person in America that can move those 4 senators and move House leadership, I think, is President Trump. So we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, so that meeting, is that all of the members of the Freedom Caucus or just a select few?
Group, golly, Ned, if all of us went, we wouldn't get any words in edgewise. But Senator Paul met with the president, I believe, yesterday, and we're going to be in there a little bit later on.
Now, then that's going to be today, right?
I think it's either tonight or tomorrow. I know it's happening.
I think, you know what? I think it's tonight. I think I heard it's...
Ultimately, if you want to stop this and you want to move some of these folks who are off the reservation onto it and get to 50 or 51, would be nice, but 50 is what we need. The president's the only person who has the bully pulpit that can make it happen. So,
okay. So yesterday, Sean Spicer stepped short of saying the president endorsed this plan, which I think was a good thing because, look, the only way something like this is going to get through is if he were to get behind it 100%. And then what he's got to be very careful of is that it has to match what he said on the campaign trail like everything else has. And certainly what I've seen of this replacement plan is ridiculous as far. I mean, and to think that your colleagues, and I know, Tom, you were not a part of this, but your colleagues had 72 months to come up with something, and this is what they roll out. I could have done this in a week in my dining room.
Well, here's what you got. It's very simple, and I got a lot. I got get myself in trouble here. I got a lot of respect for House leadership. What they did was we never didn't have a plan. We always had a lot of plans. What we didn't have was a consensus. So they made the lightest, most palatable sort of milquetoast plan that they could, I think, in order to ensure cohesion. Well, you know, there are some of us who aren't here to pass something. There are some of us who are here to pass the right thing, and I don't think this is it. And at some point, you need to understand that not getting reelected, if that's what you're afraid of, is an occupational hazard, and just do the right thing.
Unbelievable. So, Congressman, this meeting with representatives of the Freedom Caucus tonight in the White House, anybody that you know is going to be there?
I mean, I know that Jim Jordan will be there. I know that Mark Meadows will be there. Beyond that, I know that Mark Sanford will be there, and anybody else is a guess.
Okay, so you're going to have this meeting. Rand Paul met with the president, I know, privately last night. I think he's making a lot of sense. What's the objective of this meeting? Are you guys just, are your representatives just going to go in there?
It's what I said, and that is we have a better plan, and our plan is better for the long-term financial interests of the nation and the short-term health care needs of our people. And if you pass the leader's plan, we don't think you're going to see the results that you want. And if you don't see the results that you want, sort of if you break it, you buy it. In other words, when we get to the midterm elections and to the president's reelect, certainly he's done enough to capture the ire of the mainstream media already. It will be, I think, the speakers are going to go up to 11, if you will, on the criticism in 3 years if we pass the wrong bill. So that's our pitch. We have a better plan, and it's good for America, and it's good for advancing the ball, metaphorically, for the whole nation, and this is the one you should get on board with. Again, I mean, right now, if you look at who says they won't do X, Y, or Z, there's no path to success. So instead of advancing a half measure that can't succeed, why don't you advance the right measure and use the power that you have to make it succeed, and that's kind of our argument.
Well, that's the argument that got Trump elected. What you're seeing is, and again, this is my narrative, so I don't want to tie to this, okay, please. So let's just separate Congressman Tom Garrett out from this comment. What you're seeing is typical Republican GOP leadership plan that doesn't amount to a hill of beans, which is why Trump got the nomination in the first place, which is what I've been saying all week.
Yeah,
so I know you're separate from
our
that.
Founders didn't do a declaration of codependence. I mean,
right.
we declared independence. The half measure is not. It doesn't get you anywhere. So it's time for bold action. And you're exactly right. People, I sat down with a local elected leader, not to be named, yesterday, who described his political sort of style and machinations, and he's as independent as they come, and he's also as strong a Trump supporter as you'll ever find, because the guy wanted to see some stuff get done. And so people are looking. Let's get some stuff done.
Let's get some stuff done. Okay. Someone wants to ask you a question. Richard from Norfolk, Virginia says, Congressman Garrett, what's wrong with repealing to start with and then worry about something else after that? Why not just repeal it and go back to the way it was?
Well, that's the first thing that the Freedom Caucus is asking for, is the 2015 bill that passed with no problems, right? These folks in
right.
Congress who voted for the 2015 repeal because they knew President Obama would veto it. I mean, it's not hard
right.
to figure out who they are, and shame on them all. And you can repeal with an effective date, which gives you time to look for your replacement. And that's kind of what we're asking for. The replacement ideas are out there. I don't know. Richard's question is great. We had the numbers before. If you go start looking for the people who were there in 15 and aren't there now, you know where the profiles in courage are. That was sort of a hyperbolic thing.
Well, they voted for that in 2015, Congressman Tom Garrett, and supported it because it was a Broadway play. It was a show because they knew Obama would veto it, and they didn't have 2/3 in either chamber. And so it meant nothing. It was basically a street mime. In school, the guy who tried to act tough, but he'd always stand behind somebody and say, "You're lucky he's holding me back." that was that move. Yeah, we're tough. You're lucky he's holding me back. Yeah, because they knew there'd never be a fight because it was going to get vetoed. So, people need to figure out who those folks are and act appropriately. And go from there. Right.
The underlying sort of theme to my political life is that we're descended from people who are willing to die to do the right thing, and we've devolved into people who are afraid of losing a committee assignment and therefore won't do the right thing. No
question about it. All right, Congressman, I got a couple more minutes. Let's get to Trump's executive order yesterday. He took Iraq off the list. He also, the element of surprise gone. It's not being implemented until the 16th of March, so the bad guys have 10 days to figure it out. We asked those questions at the press briefing yesterday. Sean Spicer basically saying that they couldn't even think about the element of surprise after what happened with the first executive order. That was the plan, and this is the best they could do, basically. And they said they took Iraq off the list because the Iraqi government had lobbied hard and they had assured Secretary of State Rex Tillerson that they had the proper vetting in place, etc. What do you think of this new executive order, and is it really going to make us safer?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the first one would have made us safer. I also think the first one was completely legal, and I'm sure there are people in your listening audience going, but the courts, well, yeah, some courts said it wasn't, and some courts said it was. If we'd have let this thing play out in the courts, it would have meant that the president waited, and inaction is the enemy of accomplishment. And so instead of, he didn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. Ultimately, we're not banning anybody from anywhere. There's all sorts of exceptions. In fact, currently my office is working to receive refugee visas for specific individuals from one of the nations on the list because we know exactly who they are, and they've been imprisoned for their minority religious beliefs. And I fully expect that we'll get those refugee visa exceptions. The reality is that our obligation is to protect this nation and its constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. And where there is not a stable government, instead of failed state, there's nobody to call and say, tell me about John Fredericks' associations and character. Is he affiliated with radical organizations? Is he prone to terrorist activity? And so they certainly deserve a little bit of heightened scrutiny, since there can be no scrutiny on the end from which they come. It's mind-numbing to me that there's such voracious opposition. I think if President Trump were to issue an executive order naming the first day of the work week Monday, that there would be protests in the streets. So, I'm just kind of getting steeled against it and used to it.
Right, because it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. You're absolutely right about that. Hey, we're out of time. I want to thank Congressman Tom Garrett for being with us today, as always. Congressman, we appreciate your time and your candor. More information, go to tomgarrett.house.gov. Tom Garrett, 2 R's, 2 T's, .house.gov. Also, Congressman Garrett is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. And now you've got a town hall meeting coming up in Charlottesville, right?
That's right. We got 60% of the vote in the district, just under. And we got 23% of the vote in Charlottesville, so we decided we would do it where we were popular.
That's the way to do it, man. You're going right into the Lion's Den where you got 23%. You're going to take the questions, right? You're going to do it for 2 hours. You're going to have it in a big venue. You're going to invite everybody. That's the way to have a town hall meeting.
It's relatively small, and there is a moderator. It's at the University of Virginia. But what we wanted to do was ensure, honestly, I've got a number of supporters who are older, to include my mom, who have literally expressed concerns about physical violence, particularly in light of people unconscious in the street in Berkeley, California, after Milo was supposed to speak, and then this weekend people getting beat with sticks by the open-minded party of free exchange of ideas. So we do have a relatively small venue, and there will be a moderator. If they'd like to scream and yell for 2 hours, they can stand outside and do that. Inside, we're going to have an actual exchange of ideas, and we're going to accompany as hospitably those who disagree with us as well as who agree with us. And that's what a town hall is supposed to be about, and it flummoxes the bad guys because that's not what they want.
Look, that is the way to have it, and having it in Charlottesville right off the bat makes a lot of sense. And you got to have a dialogue, and I think you're doing that, so I commend you with that. More information, go to tomgarrett.house.gov. Thank you for being with us, Congressman. See you next week.